I'm Romi Kupfer. I'm a theatre maker and director. I am chatting to you today about Singing Swallows. I am a theatre maker that has been making work since 2013 alongside my university studies in performance. I'm really passionate about creating meaningful art and collaborating and devising new Australian work. A big part of my process is championing access and inclusion, both from an artistic perspective but also from an audience perspective. I created Singing Swallows in 2016 as part of my honours inquiry at Monash University, and I always knew I wanted to create a performance about the Holocaust since a young age. That was always something that I knew I had to do. I guess as a Jewish theatre maker, I feel a massive sense of responsibility to continue telling these stories and make sure that they're passed on through generations. A big factor was always the question of how are the next generation going to know about the Holocaust in the same meaningful and connected way that I've been able to know about the Holocaust. So, I've had the privilege of being able to speak to my grandfather and other people's grandparents and other survivors about their experiences one-on-one in intimate settings, in larger settings, but many times over my life. And of course, in the future that's not going to be a possibility. So how do we still retain that emotional and personal connection of that storytelling experience without the storyteller themselves? So that's why I created Singing Swallows, to see how I could challenge that idea. What are we going to do? How are we going to tell these stories? And how are we going to engage young people in these stories without traumatizing them? Because as we know, the Holocaust is a very traumatic and difficult subject, and especially when it is such a personal thing. And if, like myself, have had family members live through it, or close friends and their families live through it, it's quite difficult and confronting to realise the enormity of what actually happened. So that's why I created Singing Swallows, a Holocaust performance for young audiences aged 9 and up. So in 2016 I set out to create this show, Singing Swallows, with my core creative team, which was with John, Justin and Tammy, and we developed it alongside myself writing a thesis, and we devised the show. So I interviewed 4 Holocaust survivors, Henry Korn, A.B. and Sesha Goldberg, and my grandfather Romi Kupfer, and I took the text from those interviews and used that in the show, which is then recorded by young Jewish children in primary school. Well, they were in primary school at the time. And basically it developed into this, headphone experience for the audience because I was really conscious of how do I tell a story that is a story of my people, a story of my community, but it's not my story. I haven't lived through it, I haven't experienced it. So in terms of looking at representation and ethics around that, I decided an interesting way to interrogate that and explore it was through using these voice recordings of young children telling those stories, and the actors on stage not actually speaking. They're picking up the set pieces, moving things around, performing based on what is happening in the story that you are hearing in your headphones. Since 2016, we have toured to multiple schools where we've performed the show, and then I've also run a Q&A kind of discussion afterwards with the kids to talk about the Holocaust and talk about the performance and to see what their thoughts were on it. We've performed for kids in grade 3 up until year 11. So it's quite a broad age gap, which has been really interesting in having those post-show discussions and hearing kind of what they know, what they didn't know, and also what context they're bringing to the table. So that's been really great, and it's a really exciting step to have the first public premiere at TheatreWorks, so really looking forward to when that will actually be possible instead of April this year. The Holocaust is clearly a very difficult topic, especially a challenging one for young people. Singing Swallows is appropriate for young people aged 9 and above. That's not to say though that some parents or families might choose not to let their children who are that young be exposed to the Holocaust, but then there are also families who are super keen, and I know those kids are already reading Anne Frank's journal and those sorts of books at home and at school. It's a really challenging topic, and for me it's very close to home, it's very personal, it's part of my family's history and my community's history. And so for me, it's important that we're able to have these conversations with young people at any point, rather than, just waiting until they reach, 16 years old and then bang, here are all the facts. Also, for me, it's important for us to connect with the survivors of the stories, and that's a really big thing for me. Is that, we can learn all the facts and the statistics and the numbers, and we can watch the films and look at the horrific imagery, but at the end of the day, each person was a person with a life, with a family, with hobbies, they went on holidays, with likes and dislikes, sibling rivalries, life. And that's what's important to me to pass on, is the understanding that the people that this happened to were people, living their life normally, like we all do. And in order to carry on these stories and these experiences, we need to remember that, and not just regard this event as some historical thing that happened, a long time ago, and all these numbers and statistics that we have to remember. It's more personal than that. It's more emotional than that. So we didn't really get into rehearsals, unfortunately. We did start rehearsals, and then due to the current situation in the world, we were unable to continue them. But what's really exciting about the season at TheatreWorks and this current production is that actually we have 2 new actors who will be performing with me on stage, and that's Flora and Sol Feldman, and they are both young people. So this is a really exciting new step for the show, as we haven't had any young people perform in it before. And I think that this will add a really interesting dimension to it, and also play towards the intergenerational storytelling that happens throughout the show. Growing up in the Jewish community, at a Jewish school, the Holocaust was a really big part of my life, and having annual commemorations and watching videos, reading books, talking about it, hearing about it from other people's grandparents, it was really around. And I'm really looking forward to sharing this bit of, what's a big part of our community, especially in Melbourne, with other people who live in Melbourne who might not be so aware of it. At the end of the day, the show is about tolerance and acceptance and diversity, and loving others, but also loving yourself, and being proud to be who you are, and supporting others to be proud to be who they are. And I hope that whoever comes and sees the shows feels inspired by that. I was very excited that this show was going to have its first public premiere at TheatreWorks, and still excited that it will. I really hope you'll come and see it. I hope you'll come and bring your children, your other family members, young people in your family or your friends, and come and experience this with us. It's a real privilege to hear Holocaust stories, and it's a real privilege to tell them. So I hope to see you in the theatre soon.